My wedding to Adrian was hailed by the media as the most heartbreaking corporate marriage of the century. No blessings, only flashbulbs, and eyes glittering with hidden agendas. He and I, Sienna, CEO of Vance Tech, and Adrian, heir to Blackwood, have been sworn enemies since we were kids. Whenever our names share a financial magazine cover, we're always cast as rivals. Now we stand side by side like two immaculate corporate props, forced to star in this year's blockbuster production of Married for the Family. It started when both companies were blindsided by a mysterious hedge fund. Stock prices whiplashed, projects were poached, an invisible hand dragging us toward the abyss. The old man on both boards panicked, reached for the most hackneyed stratagem in existence, and declared a marriage alliance to steady market confidence. I fought back, he presumably did too. But arms can't out-wrestle thighs, and beside the grinding gears of family interest individual will counts for nothing. Before we go on, please subscribe to this channel and comment where you're listening from. After the ceremony we returned to the penthouse, halfway between headquarters and nicknamed the marriage cage. I tossed a freshly drafted contract in front of him. "Sign it." My voice cut clean. Adrian loosened his tie. No flicker of emotion crossed that unfairly handsome face, only eagle-sharp eyes. He scanned the pages at a glance. Marriage 1. During the marriage the parties are partners in name only, no spousal duties shall be performed. 2. Finances remain separate, neither side meddles in the other's corporate decisions. 3. Neither party shall enter a substantive relationship with a third party. 4. The cardinal clause, whoever falls in love first forfeits everything and abandons all claim to leadership of the family alliance. Forfeit everything? Adrian chuckled, the sound cold. Sienna, that little faith in yourself? I just hate uncontrollable risk, I shot back. Like you. He lifted the pen and, without hesitation, slashed his signature across the bottom. Done. He slid the document back. But I'm adding a writer. Below clause 4 he wrote in longhand, this agreement remains in force until the mole threatening both families is exposed. My pupils shrank. He suspected what I did, that the crisis began inside our own walls, that each empire nursed a traitor. So you think it's me? I asked. Don't you think it's me? He countered. Silence stretched, thick with unspoken gambits. We've dueled for a decade, we know each other's weapons by heart. If Vance Tech wanted a plant, Adrian would be the prize bullseye, and vice versa. This marriage was never an alliance, it was the most dangerous mutual interrogation on earth. That night we slept in separate rooms. At midnight, clad in silk, I ghosted into his suite. He breathed slow and steady. From my clutch I drew a handheld bug sweeper and casually swept the perimeter. Sure enough, a faint red pulse glowed beneath the bedside lamp base. I smiled thinly, left the device untouched, and from my lipstick tube produced an RF jammer no bigger than a shirt button, planting it behind the headboard. I pivoted to leave. A hand shot out, vice-like around my wrist. Adrian's eyes glittered in the dark. President Vance, he rasped, voice husky with sleep yet lethal, a midnight courtesy call? Hoping to expedite the conjugal duties? I extricated myself, smoothing an imaginary wrinkle from my robe. President Blackwood, such humor. I merely came to see whether you'd placed my wedding gift, that limited edition bullfrog statue, on your nightstand. The hideous thing inside which I'd hidden my own Mike Adrian sat up, lounging against the headboard. Naturally. A present from you, how could I not? Speaking of, still sleepwalking, I see. Our gazes locked, calculations crackling between us. Maybe, I said, turning to offer him a pristine view of my back, sharing a roof with a potential corporate spy does wonders for insomnia. Next morning, the first business day after the wedding, we pulled up in separate cars, one behind the other. Under the media gauntlet Adrian gallantly opened my door, shielding my head with practiced charm. Picture-perfect newlyweds. The elevator doors had barely slid shut before he stepped away, smile vaporized. Sleep well, Blackwood? Dreamily, once I was certain people had no late-night hobbies, Blackwood. The doors parted, professional masks clicked back on, and we strode off to our respective war rooms. At 10 sharp, the combined boards convened over video. Topic: the new energy parcel in Eastbrook both companies had coveted. Formerly arch rivals, we were now, on paper, one unstoppable bid team. Our pitch foregrounds eco-sustainability, I said, voice crisp. Higher capex, predictable long-term yields. Before my last syllable landed, Adrian drawled, I disagree. Markets pivot overnight, long horizons breed nightmares. Blackwood's Plan B delivers cash inside 3 months. He contradicted me in front of every senior officer without blinking. My execs colored. I smiled sweetly. Still chasing quick wins, Blackwood? Remind us how that $3 billion misread in South America worked out last year? Across the feed, his lieutenants went rigid. At least I gamble, he countered, wolf-eyed. Unlike some who hugged the safety zone. The meeting imploded, everyone exiting convinced the marriage was worthless. Mission accomplished. Barely had I lifted my espresso when my assistant burst in. President Vance, internal servers are under assault. Series C core data is hemorrhaging. I sprinted to R&D, screens vomited code while sirens howled. Trace the IP? Our CTO, drenched in sweat, answered, multiple offshore hops. But the signature, it's familiar. In this industry only one ghost painted in that style. Adrian. I speed dialed him. That your handiwork? A lazy laugh floated back. Accusations require evidence, Vance. Perhaps your firewall qualifies for a museum? Produce proof and I'll bury you, I warned. Looking forward to the attempt. I hung up, rage molten. Fine, Adrian, shadow punch me and I'll torch your supply lines. Spin up Hiva's decoy, I ordered. Route their fire into the tar pit. Reschedule Europe VC call, tell them my husband's company suffered minor turbulence, I need to referee. By 4 p.m. I sipped Keyman as assistant called, vibrating with glee, Blackwood's entire port clearance system crashed. Those billion-dollar German instruments are rotting on the pier, demurrage hemorrhaging by the hour. I set the cup down gently. Adrian rang within 10. He snarled. I'm sorry, accusations require evidence, I echoed. Maybe your custom software needs retirement benefits? A glacier of silence. Finally, gravel-voiced, touché. Dinner talk tonight? He added. Delighted. I floated home, intoxicated by worthy adversary far more than champagne. The penthouse reeked of scorched metal. I stalked to the kitchen. Adrian, bespoke shirt charcoal smeared, fought a smoking skillet like it had insulted his mother. Warzone counters, flour snowing the ceiling. What exactly are you doing? I leaned, arms folded. He froze. Cooking. Looked like alchemy, I deadpanned. He killed the burner, lobbed the casualty into the sink, hiss, steam plume. Topic of conversation? I asked. He wiped his hands, composure rearmored. Today's breach wasn't me. Sure, I intoned. Likewise, I doubt you ordered the port chaos. We strike surgically, cripple, not carpet bomb. Jamming customs strands innocence. I weighed the claim, it rang true. We duel for elegance, not collateral damage. Someone's forging our fingerprints, baiting us to gut each other, he finished. So this culinary catastrophe is your white flag? Bribe me with briquettes? His ears pinked. I'm inspecting gas lines, he muttered. Safety first. Right, and I moonlight as a goodwill ambassador. He stepped closer, sudden, deliberate, till a fist of air separated us. Smoke-flecked cologne filled my lungs. Sienna, he murmured, eyes blazing, until we smoke the mole, temporary ceasefire? His breath brushed my cheek, my heart stuttered. I lurched back, snagged by an invisible cord, and pitched forward, straight into his arms. Chest like tempered steel, his pulse galloped beneath my cheek, 1, 2, matching my own arrhythmic slam. I peeled away, suit restraightened, mask ice-plated. Information pool only, no trust included. And keep your hands in inventory. You tackled me, he retorted, massaging the impact zone, grin wicked. I couldn't be bothered to trade barbs, so I turned away, yanked 2 bottles of mineral water from the fridge, and tossed him one. Tell me what you found. We settled on the living room sofa with a gap wide enough for 2 more people between us. The IP that hit your server traces back to the same offshore virtual address as the anonymous short sellers who've been hammering both our stocks, Adrian said, twisting the cap off and taking a swallow. I dug deeper. It's registered to an investment shop called Chimera, incorporated a year ago, paper-thin pedigree, yet obnoxiously active in the markets. Chimera. The fire-breathing patchwork of lion, goat, and serpent from Greek myth. A Frankenstein monster, I sneered. Fits their MO, snatching scraps of tech here, mimicking Blackwood models there. Exactly. And I'm betting they bought people inside both companies, Adrian said, eyes locked on mine. Otherwise they wouldn't have known the timing of our upcoming Series C or the loopholes in the port clearance system. Exactly what I feared. A traitor inside the walls is harder to stop than an army outside. So your childish stunt tonight, paralyzing the entire port, was to smoke them all out? I asked. Aren't you doing the same? Feigning weakness, sacrificing the main server to see who pops up to spread rumors that Tech is on life support. We looked at each other again. No daggers this time, just the quiet recognition of 2 grandmasters meeting over the same board. Partnership, then? He lifted his water bottle in salute. Temporary partnership. I raised mine and tapped his across the coffee table. My phone rang. Mom. Sienna, don't forget Granddad's 80th birthday dinner this weekend. Bring Adrian. The whole family wants to meet him. Her tone tolerated 0 objections. I pinched the bridge of my nose. The headache I didn't need had arrived. Got it, I muttered. I hung up. Adrian watched me, half smiling. Afraid I'll tarnish CEO Sienna's sterling reputation? I'm afraid your acting skills aren't good enough to keep us from being exposed. Relax, he said, rising. He stepped in front of me, leaned down, braced both hands on the sofa cushions, and caged me between his arms. His favorite trick again. CEO Sienna, don't forget, I graduated from business school too. Acting class, A+. His face was inches away, I could count every lash and the mocking glint behind his irises. The man was a born demon. Then let's see the performance, Blackwood, I said, lifting my chin to meet his gaze. The weekend family banquet would be an ambush. I would juggle relatives dying to see us flop and a temporary ally who could bite me at any moment, all while staging the happily ever after couple. Saturday, while I was still choosing a dress, Adrian handed me a box. Wear this. Inside lay a sapphire mermaid gown, clean lines, regal drape, exactly my style. How do you know my size? I eyed him warily. We've fought for 10 years, Sienna, he said, fastening his cufflinks. I know which brand of stilettos you like, how you take your coffee, even which days of the month you're emotionally radioactive. Heat crawled across my cheeks for no reason. Likewise, I shot back. I slipped into the gown, perfect, as if molded to me. Adrian emerged in a tux whose blue accents matched my dress. He offered his arm as though we'd done it for years. Time to go, Blackwood. The curtain's up. I inhaled, slid my hand through the crook of his elbow, and felt the solid strength beneath the fabric. For a second it felt less like a dinner and more like charging onto a shared battlefield. The Vance estate was packed with East Burke elite. When Adrian and I stepped into the marble foyer, every gaze stuck to us, curiosity, appraisal, schadenfreude. My useless cousin Julian met us first. Well, Sienna and the hubby, he drawled. Didn't expect you two to survive the honeymoon night. He's always coveted my chair and never wastes a chance to trip me. Before I could retort, Adrian tucked me closer, intimate yet cool. Cousin, I appreciate the concern, but our marriage is private. No need to trouble yourself. One sentence choked Julian silent. Granddad sat at the head table, eyes flickering with unreadable emotion when he saw us. Adrian, welcome. Sit. We approached. Adrian presented his gift, an authenticated lost landscape scroll by a long-gone master calligrapher. Collecting art is Granddad's weakness, his eyes lit instantly. You're thoughtful. Dinner began, crossfire under the chandeliers. Aunts and distant cousins lobbed questions like grenades. Sienna, when are you giving us babies? Adrian, who cooks when you're both workaholics? While my smile cramped, Adrian fielded every round. He plated food for me and answered serenely, children come when they come. Sienna's career is taking off, I respect her timeline. As for cooking, I handle it. She works hard, I can't bear to see her in front of a stove. His doting gaze was Oscar-worthy. Under the table his foot nudged mine, claiming credit. I kept smiling, speared a rib, and accidentally stomped back. By the time the banquet ended, I felt like I'd survived a spy thriller. Guests drifted away, Granddad summoned us to his study. Stop the act, he sighed, lighting a cigar. This marriage was rough on both of you. We understand, Granddad, I said softly. Adrian, he went on, I know you're capable. Sienna's been tough since childhood. Look after her. It sounded like he was handing me over for life. I fidgeted. Adrian stood straight. I'll keep her safe as long as I breathe. His voice rang like steel. Something inside me slipped. We left after midnight. Thunderstorms broke, rain lashing the windshield. Thunder has terrified me since I was small. A crack exploded overhead, I flinched. Adrian, driving, said nothing, just switched the stereo to soft classical and raised the temperature a notch. Warmth and music filled the cabin, rain drumming beyond the glass. The panic ebbed without a word. Back at the penthouse, I headed for my room. Wait. Adrian stopped me. He held out a flash drive. Guest list from tonight. I flagged anyone who's had recent contact with Chimera, including Julian. I took it, my fingers were ice. You suspect him? He looked at me like I'm a rival to be eliminated, not a brother-in-law, Adrian said. And he's inner circle on your Series C. Exactly my fear. I'll investigate. Be careful. He disappeared into his room. Watching his back, I felt emotions I couldn't name. By day we fought for market share, by night he warned me about my own blood. Our relationship was drifting into uncharted waters. Thunder boomed again. I tossed in bed, sleep impossible. My door creaked. Adrian entered with a mug of warm milk. Can't sleep? He set it on the nightstand, voice low. Drink, it helps. I stared. He turned to leave. Adrian. The word slipped out. He paused. Thanks. He seemed surprised, then almost smiled. Anytime, Blackwood. The door clicked shut. I sipped the sweet, steaming milk, warmth spread from stomach to heart. Outside, thunder rolled on, but I wasn't afraid anymore. With Adrian's list, my investigation sharpened. I had my assistant pull Julian's project ledgers and call logs for the past quarter. The shock came fast. A downstream supplier he managed, Hong Fa Materials, declared bankruptcy last month. 1 week prior, Julian had received a $5 million consulting fee from them through a cutout account. Blatant. I ordered a deep background check on Hong Fa. Meanwhile, Adrian emailed progress. A Blackwood logistics supervisor's son had been admitted to an Ivy League school on a mysterious full-ride scholarship. That university's largest trustee? Chimera's founder. Pieces clicked. Hong Fa, overseas supervisor. I called Adrian. Check if Hong Fa had a rare metal order with your logistics arm before it collapsed. Silence, then surprise. How did you? Just do it. 30 minutes later he rang back, voice grave. Confirmed. Shipment of cobalt, key for chips, arrived from Africa a month ago and vanished. The supervisor handled port clearance, Hong Fa controlled domestic transport. After the theft, Hong Fa declared bankruptcy, case closed. The mosaic was complete. Chimera's goal wasn't our downfall, it was hijacking our next-gen AI neural chip. The stolen cobalt was the feedstock. Julian and the supervisor were their pawn and knight, steal, launder, bury the evidence. Meanwhile, Chimera shorted our stocks, hacked our servers, faked internal strife, smokescreens for grand larceny. A textbook feint. They're replicating our chip in a covert fab right now, I said, icy dread climbing my spine. I know where. Adrian's tone could freeze fire. Westbrook suburbs, an abandoned wafer fab Chimera bought last month. We move tonight. No. Instant veto. Zero warrant, zero backup. We tip our hand and they sue us into oblivion. So we watch them loot our work? I demanded. Patience, he calmed me. I've got eyes on the place 24/7. We need ironclad proof, something that buries them forever. After he hung up, I still couldn't throttle my pulse. Corporate war had crossed into crime. That night I found Adrian at the floor-to-ceiling window, skyline glittering beyond. We have to infiltrate that plant, I said. I told you, too risky. Got a better idea? He turned, suddenly grinning. CEO Sienna, cheap provocation won't work. But I do have a plan. Spill it. Next week, annual Eastbrook's Charity Gala. Chimera's Asia lead, a ghost named Lucian, will be there. You want to grab him at the party? No, he shook his head. While Lucian and his lieutenants drink champagne, their fab will be naked. That's our window. I caught the pronoun. We? That's right, us. He stepped in front of me, midnight eyes lit with a light I'd never seen there before, the gleam of a hunter, equal parts thrill and menace. Sienna, dare to play one big round with me? I stared at the man who had been my sworn enemy for 10 years. In that instant I knew, we were cut from the same cloth. Born for the battlefield, for the high-stakes gamble. I extended my hand. Deal. His grip was warm, dry, unflinching. This time there was no testing, no sparring. Only the unbreakable vow of allies. The night of the charity gala arrived in a flash. Adrian and I appeared in full regalia, as the city's most headline-grabbing power couple. We drew every camera the moment we stepped from the car. I wore black velvet, elegant and lethal. Adrian's charcoal suit could have walked straight out of a chivalric tapestry. Arm in arm, perfect smiles affixed, we drifted through the crowd of financiers and socialites. Mr. and Blackwood, such a perfect match of genius and beauty. Indeed, with Vance Tech and Blackwood united, the sky's the limit. We accepted the hollow compliments while mentally counting down the seconds. Halfway through dinner I spotted our target, Lucian. A cultured, middle-aged man in gold-rimmed glasses, he chatted amiably with city officials over champagne. Without inside knowledge, no one would suspect he was the viper twisting the markets behind the curtain. Adrian's whisper brushed my ear. The guy in white beside him manages security at the abandoned wafer fab. Both are here tonight. Go time? In 10 minutes I'll accidentally drench the city electrical map with red wine, blacking out Westbrook for about 5. Your people ready? Absolutely. I flicked a glance toward my assistant, disguised as a waiter. Exactly 10 minutes later every light in the banquet hall snapped off. Screams and confusion erupted. Stay calm. Just a shorted circuit. Adrian's voice sliced cleanly through the dark, steadying the room. I slipped out like a shadow. A black van idled at the service entrance. I yanked on matte black tacticals, coiling my hair into a tight knot. Vance, we're green across the board, my tech lead said. Move. The van shot toward the decommissioned fab on the western fringe. Meanwhile Adrian excused himself to the men's room and vanished through a side exit. Divide and conquer, he would create distractions, I would snatch the evidence. 15 minutes later we reached the perimeter. As Adrian predicted, the blackout plus the gala had gutted the security roster. Drone sweep shows 2 patrols southeast, a blind spot northwest, Tech whispered in my earpiece. I'll hijack their backup system in 3 minutes, trigger a false alarm, draw the guards off. 90 seconds for you to crawl through the northwest vent. Ready, Vance? Copy. I stared up at the iron beast of a building, heart drumming with adrenaline. 3 minutes crawled by, then klaxons howled inside the plant. The 2 guards cursed and sprinted toward the noise. Now. I vaulted the fence, melted into darkness, and reached the blind zone, prying open the vent grate and sliding inside. The shaft was narrow, reeking of rust and dust. Following the schematic fed through my earpiece, I wriggled forward like a snake. Lab directly below. Cracking the door code now. I paused over the slats. Light blazed in the lab, an independent generator. White-gowned engineers fussed around a hulking EUV scanner. Centered in a hermetic glass case rested a newly etched wafer glinting in ominous blue. They'd actually pulled it off. Code cracked, but you've got 30 seconds before the system relocks. I dropped through the vent, landing catsoft. Gasps erupted. Before anyone moved, I rammed a custom flash drive into the main console. Data copying. 10%. 30%, intruder. A tech slammed the panic button. Sirens shrieked. 70%. 90%, boots thundered down the corridor. Copy complete. I ripped the drive free and bolted. A security guard blocked the doorway, dagger gleaming. Hand it over, he snarled, advancing. I retreated until cold metal kissed my spine. The flash drive felt molten in my fist. Suddenly the lab's side door exploded inward. Adrian filled the frame like an avenging archangel, jacket gone, dress shirt torn and streaked with blood, eyes burning brighter than the alarms. Hurt her and you'll wish you'd never been born. The guard froze, weighing odds. In that heartbeat Adrian lunged, disarmed him in a blur, and pressed the dagger to his throat. Who sent you? Ice-coated Adrian's voice. The man clamped his mouth shut. Adrian tightened the blade, a crimson line appeared. Talk. Lucien, the guard stammered. The director, Lucien. How many inside? Everyone chased you, I'm alone here, a chop to the carotid and the man sagged, unconscious. Adrian strode to me, scanning for injuries. You okay? Hurt anywhere? I shook my head, pulse thundering. Got it? I opened my fist, the tiny flash drive winked under fluorescent glare. He exhaled hard. Time to vanish. We fled through a mapped-out effluent tunnel, surfacing muddy and breathless beside the idling van. Both of us looked like we'd clawed from a war zone, my suit shredded, his forearm slashed oozing crimson. You're bleeding. Scratch. He shrugged, yanking disinfectant and gauze from the medkit. I snatched them. Hold still. The laceration wasn't deep but ran the length of his muscle. He flinched as alcohol hit but made no sound. Silence pulsed between us, former enemies now bound by survival. Thanks. For rescuing you or for brawling? He teased softly. Both. One measly thank you? I lifted my gaze, scowling. What exactly do you want, Blackwood? He grinned, exhaustion making it devastating. At minimum, a sweet husband for my dear wife. Heat scorched my cheeks, anger or something messier. In your dreams. I tossed the gauze aside and stared out the window. Home by 4 a.m., we were too wrecked to speak. Shower first, he said. I didn't argue. Under scalding water I scrubbed grime and adrenaline away. When I emerged he hadn't retreated to his suite, instead he hunched over a laptop on the living room couch. What are you doing? Deconstructing the data. He tapped the screen. What you pulled is worse than we thought. I perched beside him. Folder trees sprawled across the monitor. This is Chimera's entire Swallow project, he said, voice grave. They lifted our AI neural chip specs and planned to unveil their knockoff at next month's economic, file international patents, then sue us for infringement, wiping us out and buying our carcasses at scrap price. Ruthless, thorough annihilation. The summit, I checked the calendar. Less than a month. Which means we collaborate perfectly from this moment forward. He closed the lid, eyes locking on mine. Sienna, the real war starts tonight. Morning light crept through the blinds as I studied the man who'd risked everything for me. For the first time, I didn't argue. I inclined my head. All right. Neither of us left the couch. Shoulders touching, we slept like survivors on a life raft, our first night, married or otherwise, spent side by side. Since that joint heist, Adrian and I had slid into a delicate equilibrium. By daylight we still signed documents as CEOs of dueling empires. Behind closed doors we were battle-tested partners, converting the penthouse into an impromptu war room. Per the drive, Chimera's moles sit at VP level or higher. Anything less couldn't access this volume of trade secrets, I said, tapping the org chart projected across our smart wall. I have 3 candidates. Adrian pinned photos, VP of Marketing Wang, Finance Director Lee, and, his voice dropped, my assistant Connor. You suspect him? He's the only soul who knows every move I make and can open my laptop at will. I have 2. I added Julian and our VP of Engineering. We stared at the 5 faces, veterans once counted as family, and silence pooled. Why betray us? I murmured. Money, power, or the illusion of a better future, Chimera promised, Adrian replied, gaze resting on me. The carrot they dangled must be huge. We began a quiet purge. Rather than axe anyone outright, we shuffled departments, rewired reporting lines, and whittled their authority until the suspects hovered outside the nerve center. The maneuver hurt, whispers drifted through cubicles. Notice how the boss has changed since the wedding? More dictatorial every day. Yeah, VP Wang got sidelined after a decade of wins. Pressure crushed down on both of us, yet neither voiced a complaint. That evening I battled engineering over a project brief and trudged home drained, stomach cramping. Fridge stood bare, I'd forgotten meals existed. I reached for my phone to order takeout when Adrian emerged from the kitchen balancing a steaming bowl. Eat. He set it on the coffee table, tone brusque as ever. Plain noodles with egg, glistening broth, a perfect sunny yolk winking under chopped scallions. Did you make this? I asked, genuinely surprised. Who else? He rolled his eyes and sat down across from me. I picked up the chopsticks and took a bite. It actually tasted pretty good. The contract never said you had to feed me, I muttered, mouth full. If you starved to death up here, I'd have a hell of a time explaining it to the Vances, he answered without looking up from his financial newspaper. I didn't reply. Quietly, I finished every last noodle and drank the broth straight from the bowl. Warmth spread through my stomach. Adrian, I said, setting the bowl down. Thanks. The rustle of newspaper paused. The contract never said you had to thank me either, he parroted in the same tone I'd used. I studied him and realized, maybe this man wasn't quite as insufferable as I'd thought. After the noodles we went through the day's findings, same routine. The mole's buried deeper than we figured, Adrian said, frowning. They've gone quiet, like they smell something. Not a single slip. They're waiting, I speculated. Waiting for us to panic before the economic summit. Then we stop waiting, he said, meeting my eyes. We hand them an opportunity. Meaning? We stage a fight. His eyes glinted. A public, marriage on the rocks, alliance crumbling spectacle. I caught on instantly. We'd manufacture a feud, leak word the partnership was fractured, and force the mole to bolt straight into Chimera's arms. That's insane, I hedged. One misstep and both stocks free fall. Fortune favors the bold, Adrian countered, gaze steady. Sienna, are you willing to trust me one more time? Again, that question. I stared into those eyes that seemed to see straight through me. Our prenup said whoever fell first lost everything, yet here I was, trusting my supposed enemy, again. I exhaled, crushing the flutter in my chest. Fine, I said. We do it your way. But I write the script. He grinned. Deal, Director Vance. In that instant I knew we'd already drifted off course. The ice-cold contract suddenly felt optional. Act 1 of the feuding couple drama was scheduled for Blackwood quarterly shareholder meeting. As planned, I would attend as the Vance representative and publicly detonate a fight with Adrian over a joint project. To make it believable, we rehearsed the night before. Your tone's wrong, Adrian critiqued from the couch. Anger laced with heartbreak, like I betrayed you. Blackwood, remember your role, actor, not director, I shot back. I'm thinking of the finished product. Then learn your lines. I tossed him a folder. Accuse me of embezzlement with righteous fury, play the wounded innocent. On it. We ran the dialogue again and again, two lunatics prepping for Shakespearean tragedy. Next afternoon, the shareholders assembled. I strode in wearing stark black or a lethal. Mid-meeting I detonated right on cue. Blackwood, why did $50 million from Project Genesis land in an anonymous offshore account last week? Vance money wasn't meant to pad Blackwood pockets. I slammed the forged wire transfer on the table. Gasps rippled through the room. Adrian leapt up, face livid, trembling finger pointed at me. Sienna. Slander, vicious, baseless slander against me and Blackwood. Baseless? The proof's in front of you. This document's bogus, probably your forgery. I always knew this marriage was your Trojan horse to swallow Blackwood. Swallow Blackwood? Get over yourself, Adrian. We hurled venom back and forth, business grievances, personal insults, until the air turned blue. Shareholders gawked, camera flashes became a strobe. Finally I stormed out, flinging over my shoulder, see you in court. The performance was flawless. By sunset headlines screamed, Vance Blackwood marriage implodes, spouses at war. Both stocks nosedived. We hunkered in the war room, watching red candles fill the screen, oddly calm. Bates cast, Adrian murmured. Now we see who bites. For 24 hours we tapped the suspects' phones. Day 1, silence. Day 2, still nothing. Close to midnight on day 3 the line twitched. My cousin Julian, skulking with a new burner, rang an overseas number. Our tap caught every syllable. Yes, Lucian, total blow-up, perfect timing. That woman Sienna locked all core tech in her office safe, only she knows the code. Relax. There's a fire drill in 3 days, I'll swipe the password then. Click. Adrian and I exchanged a look sharp enough to cut steel. Fish on. Fire drill, I sneered. Let's give him a show he'll never forget. Sequel? Adrian asked. What's the genre this time? He yanked me close, seizing my mouth with his. My mind blanked. Unlike our earlier skirmishes, this kiss was pure command, and something raw finally uncaged. When he released me, foreheads touching, his breath scorched. This time we stage a reconciliation, he rasped. I need the world to believe I love you enough to burn everything down, so handing me the tech password feels logical. I won't deny it, my pulse went haywire. His plan was airtight, best chance to snare Julian and our internal traitor. But the hunger in that kiss rattled me. Our claws rang like a gong overhead, whoever falls first loses. Deal, I said, pushing him back. Just acting. Obviously. He was instantly cool again, as if the kiss never happened. Stage, a glitzy industry gala. I wore the sapphire mermaid gown he'd given me, standing alone with a champagne flute, picture of the jilted power exec. Adrian held court across the room, distracted, gaze drifting to me. Action. A half-sloshed CEO from a Blackwood supplier staggered toward me. Vance, all alone? Heard you and the hubby split? His tone slimy, eyes roaming. I frowned, ready to retort. Lee, had too much? Adrian appeared, sliding between us. Arctic voice. My wife's tired. I'm taking her home. Ignoring the stunned crowd, he draped his tux jacket over my shoulders and swept me into his arms. I yelped, clutching his neck. The hall fell deathly quiet, then whispers erupted. He carried me out, eyes forward, past every gawking VIP. By next morning gossip blogs blared, Adrian rescues his queen, dramatic gala exit. Stock graphs flipped from crimson to green. In my office I scrolled through the headlines, half laughing at the absurdity. Adrian walked in with a portfolio. I had Connor draft this stock transfer agreement, he said, dropping it on my desk. I'm moving 5% of my Blackwood stake to you. You've lost it. Method acting. His gaze pinned me. World has to buy that. I'll pay any price for your forgiveness, so you're handing over the crown jewel secrets feels natural. Even to Julian? Especially him. I stared at the papers, stomach churning. It was only theater, so why did it feel real? The drill day arrived. I locked fake core tech in my safe and accidentally left the code tucked in a dog-eared book. At 3 p.m. sirens wailed. I filed downstairs with everyone else. Adrian waited, took my hand in front of the staff. Don't worry, I've got you. I nodded. Meanwhile, our hidden cameras rolled. Julian slipped into my office, found the code, opened the safe. Another shadow crept in, Connor, aiming to snatch the prize secondhand. They spotted each other, and started brawling like schoolboys over the bogus files. Watching the feed, I burst out laughing. Adrian grinned beside me. Time to haul the nets, I said. Let's. Police and security burst in, cuffing the two buffoons red-handed. Julian and Connor's arrests detonated through both companies. Faced with hard evidence, they confessed everything, exposing Chimera and Lucian's scheme. Armed with their testimony and the wafer fab data, we filed a joint complaint with the Commercial Crime Bureau. A dragnet tightened around Chimera. Sensing doom, they lashed out, flooding media with smear stories, trying to short our stocks in a last-ditch frenzy. We were ready. Adrian and I called a joint press conference. Flanked by lawyers, I spoke first, then Adrian placed his hand over the mic, voice calm as granite. My wife and I, and our companies, stand united. Rumors won't break us. The words my wife rolled off his tongue like gospel. For the first time, I felt safe. Markets reversed, investors cheered. Crisis ebbed. Our living room war room morphed back into a lounge. One night, while I cleared emails, Adrian handed me an embossed invitation. Annual Economic. They want us to keynote on new-gen corporate alliances. Lucian will be there. Our final battlefield, I murmured. Yeah. He studied me. Once it's over, our contract ends too. My heart lurched. Right, the agreement. When Chimera falls, so does our marriage. Husband and wife revert to sworn enemies. Or, maybe we can't even be enemies anymore. After all, we know too many of each other's secrets. The air turned heavy for a moment. That stock transfer agreement. I began. I already had my lawyer void it, he cut in. It was just a stage prop. Can't let CEO Vance milk me for that much, can I? His tone carried its usual teasing lilt. Yet to my ears it sounded sharp. Of course. I lifted my chin. The handful of Blackwood shares you offered? I never wanted them. We snapped right back to our original selves, spines bristling, neither yielding. But we both knew something had changed. The day before the economic summit, I personally designed and mailed every invitation. I would make every company bled by Chimera watch the verdict unfold. I also sent an email to my attorney. The moment the summit ends, release my divorce agreement with Adrian. When it was done, I stared at the city lights beyond the glass and felt tired. I had plotted this war for so long, and victory was almost in reach. So why didn't I taste any triumph? I drew out the marriage addendum we had signed together, the one I kept locked in the deepest drawer. Looking at the clause, "Whoever falls first loses," I gave a bitter smile. Adrian. Looks like I lost this bet. Lost it completely. The annual economic summit opened with fanfare at the National Convention Center. Adrian and I, keynote speakers, sat dead center in the front row. To our left sat the city's top officials, to our right, in the very next seat, lounged Lucien, Chimera's Asia chief. Still the picture of urbane charm, as if none of the scheming had ever happened, he even flashed us a genial grin. We smiled back and nodded. 3 A-list actors delivering the final act of piece before the curtain rose. The host's voice boomed, "Let's welcome, with our warmest applause, the outstanding new generation entrepreneurs, CEO Sienna of Vance Tech and President Adrian of Blackwood." We rose and stepped onto the stage side by side. Under the spotlights we were the power couple everyone envied, a legend of joined empires. No one realized this would be the last time we ever stood together as husband and wife. Our topic, alliance and the future. "Everyone here is a leader in your field," I began, my voice carried by the mics to every corner. "We talk cooperation, we imagine tomorrow, but all of that rests on one basic premise: fairness. Yet in our world there are always predators who create nothing," Adrian continued, his gaze drifting to Lucien in the audience, "and only siphon value. Like viruses they gnaw at the market's roots and wreck the order we depend on." A subtle shift rippled through the hall. Many caught the barb beneath the polish. Lucien kept smiling, but his eyes had gone cold. "Today my partner Adrian and I aren't sharing a success story," I paused and drew a breath, "but a tale of betrayal, theft, and payback." I pressed the remote. The giant LED wall behind us flickered, not to the slick slides everyone expected, but to crisp surveillance footage. The scene, Chimera's secret wafer fab in Westbrook. On screen, Julian and Connor presented stolen tech to Lucien. "Lucien, these are the full schematics and datasets for Sienna and Adrian's next-gen AI neural chip." Julian's sycophantic voice rang out. Boom, the hall erupted. Lucien's face drained white. He sprang up, mouth opening, but no words came. "Please, calm down," Adrian said, voice steady enough to drown the uproar. "This is the story we came to tell." The display flipped again, internal fab layouts, cobalt shipment logs, doctored financials, mole bank transfers, piece after piece of irrefutable evidence paraded before the nation's media and corporate elites. A public execution months in the making. "Lucien, Chimera," I raised the mic, looking down at the ashen man, "do you have anything to say?" Just then every door of the hall swung open. Uniformed officers poured in, surrounding Chimera's block. The lead inspector strode up to Lucien and flashed a warrant. "You are under arrest for commercial espionage and financial fraud. Please come with us." One by one, Lucien and his rattled lieutenants were cuffed. Flash guns fired non-stop, capturing the downfall of the once untouchable predator. Adrian and I stood high on the stage, watching the hunter reduced to a shackled fugitive. We had won. Cleanly. Decisively. The summit's bombshell reversal canonized Vance Tech and Blackwood overnight. We shed every scandal and emerged as guardians of fair commerce, basking in unprecedented prestige. Both stocks shot up at the next bell. Chimera, the shadowy fund that had terrorized the market, collapsed within hours. All wars were over. I stood at my office window, gazing at the bright sky, feeling only emptiness. On my phone sat a drafted email to my attorney. "Go ahead and release it. One tap and Adrian and I would be strangers forever. 2 parallel lines that never meet." I couldn't press send. A knock sounded. It was Adrian. For once he didn't barge in, he waited, polite. "CEO Vance, got a minute?" He stayed at the threshold. "Something on your mind?" My voice felt dry. "Our contract has expired," he said. "I know. So I came to give this back." He stepped forward and laid something on my desk. The marriage addendum we had signed with our own hands. "Keep it as a souvenir," I said. "No need." He shook his head. "Some things should end when they're meant to end." His double meaning stabbed straight through my chest. He turned to leave. Adrian. I stopped him. The first time I had ever called his full name outside a fight. He paused, not looking back. That night, at the gala, when you held me, when you kissed me, I forced the words out, was that acting too? He was silent so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Yes. A single word, and he walked out without turning around. The click of the door shutting echoed like the world going mute. I stared at the addendum on my desk, at the line, whoever falls first loses, and tears finally slipped free. So it had only ever been me, lost in my own foolish fantasy. He really was a superb actor. I had lost. Utterly. I dried my tears, opened the draft, and hit send. That afternoon the headline Sienna and Adrian amicable divorce detonated across the web. No one could fathom why the golden couple who had just saved their empires would split at the height of triumph. Only I knew. Because the curtain had fallen. Time for the cast to exit. Life after divorce was calm as still water. I drowned myself in work, meetings, contracts, endless signings, spinning like a tireless top. I thought if I kept busy I wouldn't have time to think of him. I was wrong. I would drive at night and, without noticing, park beneath the penthouse we once shared. I'd sit through briefings, glance at the empty chair across from me and wait for the inevitable contradiction. On stormy nights I tossed and turned, craving the glass of warm milk that once steadied my pulse. He had left deeper marks on my life than I'd ever imagined. One day college called and asked me to lunch. I went. In the restaurant he hesitated. Sienna, are you okay? I'm fine. I smiled. You and Adrian. Ancient history. I cut him off. Sienna, he said, suddenly serious, I'm not sure I should tell you, but at the summit I saw Adrian backstage, standing alone for the longest time, on the phone. He said. Help me anonymously transfer those 5% of shares into her foundation account. Consider it, the final gift from her ex-husband. My heart lurched. That Women Victims Legal Aid Foundation had been set up after the divorce with my Golden Pinnacle prize money. 5% of Blackwood, worth at least $1 billion, he hadn't voided the agreement after all, he'd turned it real. Sienna, the way he looked at you, it didn't look like acting. I jumped up and bolted from the restaurant. I drove like a maniac to Blackwood, raced to the top floor, and shoved open his office door. He stood at the wide window, back to me, silhouette lonely. Hearing the noise he turned, startled. Sienna? I stared at the man who had tormented me for so long, eyes instantly red. Adrian! I yelled. You bastard! You liar! He said nothing, just watched me. Tell me. Why did you lie? You said that night was acting, why? I rushed over and punched his chest hard. He let me hit him, motionless. When I tired he caught my hands and pulled me into a crushing embrace. Because. His voice was hoarse, raw like I'd never heard, stripped of armor, the contract said whoever falls first loses. I couldn't lose to you, Sienna, but I still lost. Lost the moment you shielded me from that first drink. Buried against him, listening to his steady heartbeat, every grievance burst its dam. Adrian, you big idiot. Yes, I'm an idiot. He held me tighter, as if to fuse me to his bones. Then, what about our agreement? I sobbed. Null and void. He drew back, cupped my face, looked into my eyes. So, Sienna, the familiar, cocky smile curved his lips, as your suitor, I hereby challenge you to a new match, no deadline, no rules. Whoever first makes the other willingly say I love you wins. Do you accept? Outside, sunlight streamed in perfect gold. I gazed at the star-bright galaxy in his eyes that belonged only to me. Rising on tiptoe, I kissed him, giving my answer without words.